Hello and a very good morning to everyone joining us today. So today on Moving Mountains, we are joined by our honorable guest, Associate Professor Dr. Johan Ng, and our two panel members, Pravina and Natasha, who are students from Form 6 Semester 1 Accounts, SMK Dato Jafar. Before moving on, I would like to inform the audience that you may leave any relevant questions to our guest in the chat, and we will get to them as progress. But before that, I'd like to give a short explanation about Moving Mountains. So basically what we're trying to do is to provide a platform for students to engage with an individual who is able to inspire and motivate them in various aspects, and to show you guys that even though something may seem impossible at the moment, with enough effort, anything can be possible. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest for today, a trained mechanical engineer who is lecturing and currently is the head of academic quality and innovation at the University of Southampton, Malaysia, who in 2007 obtained his Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering with honours and with first class classification from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and was offered a fully paid scholarship to conduct his PhD research in the same university, Associate Professor Dr. Johan Ng. So good morning, Professor. Thank you so much for being willing to spare some time with us today, despite having such a busy and hectic schedule. So, Professor, before I invite our panel members to ask you a few questions, there's a quote of yours on the website of the University of Southampton, which really intrigued me. I quote, "My dreams as a kid was to teach, to be a scientist, and to be an engineer at the same time." End quote. Would you care to explain on how you knew that these were your dreams at such a young age?
Right. So, to be honest, when we were much younger, or when I was much younger, there's this cut 001, this cut 001 that which you fill in every year as a student. You always have to fill in 3 career ambitions. So since young, or rather since the first year in Standard 1, I've always filled in 3 things: engineer, teacher, and also scientist. And every year I just switch the order. Some years I want to be teacher more than engineer. Some years I want to be scientist more than teachers, and so on. But I've never really changed it, because I always knew that I wanted to solve problems, and that would be the domain of engineers. Then I know that I always want to teach and inspire, which is the domain of teachers. And then I always know that I want to discover new things, which is also scientists. So the term YOLO, okay, all the young people's term, you only live once. So I've decided that the best is to do all 3 at once, since I only have one life on Earth now. So the only way is to, for me, is to study engineering, be a lecturer, and then I can do research from there. So this way, through becoming a lecturer, then I can be all at once, which is an engineer, a teacher, and also scientist at the same time. So that's how it came about. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Professor, for the answer. It's really interesting to see how a small thing such as that card where you have to fill out your ambitions can motivate you to become such an inspiring person today. So now, without further ado, I'd like to invite Natasha to ask you a few questions.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us today. I will ask you the first question. The first question would be, as a successful person who has a PhD, there must be a moment when you feel you want to give up when you face challenges, but there must be something that pushes and motivates you forward as well. Can you share with us, how do you inspire your student to reach for the star?
Right. So this is a really interesting question, which is close to my heart, because the reason that I'm a lecturer now, instead of possibly entering the way more lucrative banking sector, there's a lot of money over there, and even as a practicing engineer, is that by being a lecturer over here, I have a chance to inspire students to reach for the stars. And so back to your question over here, how do I inspire students? Is that so inspiring is always, for me, okay, it's a 3-step process, or a 3-step what I call the ICE process. Okay, so involving, encouraging, and also connecting. So I always involve my own students for the last 10 years in all my world-class projects that I undertake. And then when things get really tough, which always happens when you deal with something beyond your natural level, then I try to encourage them. And the interesting thing is that when they see the connection of the work they do in real life, then they get inspired on their own. So, so in other words, I don't really inspire them. I just facilitate the environment that they inspire themselves from there. So there you go. That's the my own ICE method, and I like to use the ICE method because the moniker came from my own PhD work. So my PhD work is on internal combustion, and so a lot of symbolic behind on why I choose all those, and of course given any normal day, the real step should be encouraging first, then you involve, then you connect.
That's really
But
interesting
that
and
would be
worthwhile
so the
answer from a successful
environment. So that's
person. Okay, the next question is, to be successful, there must be quality education. As head of the academic quality department, can you share with us what is quality education in your perspective?
quality education. That's possibly the presence of my own teacher over here. So just to share you that I'm also a student. I mean, I was a student over here about 20 to 25 years back or so. Okay, I can't remember the actual date. That's really gazillion years ago. So I would say that the teachers in SDJ are the living proof of what quality education should be. Then so again, I can't see the audience over here now, but if they are actually here, then legendary teachers during my time, such as Puan Pushpa. I'm not too sure if you all are taught by her. Then she taught me geography and history. Puan Jyoti taught me English. They're all stalwarts of quality education, and I'm afraid that I haven't thanked them enough. But if I may answer this on my own, since I also teach the lectures at the University of Southampton, Malaysia, on how to teach, then quality education for me is not the mastery of a lot of these mumbo jumbo education technique like objective based education, OBE, problem based learning, PBL, and even my own recent, which is creative and playful learning, which is CPL. Okay, so I mean, from the point of view of lecturing, I teach university. If I'm being functions, quality education from a delivery point is really just very simple. As you just connect your students on a very meaningful level. From a teaching aspect, you foster academic success together. You learn together in the classroom, and then lastly, from the educating aspect, you teach students how to fish, regardless of the subject matter. So I do see teaching and educating as a very separate matters altogether. All right. So in my opinion, students coming from such system where they learn to fish for their own, they have the boldness and do things, they should be able to stand tall on a global stage. So I preach these very simple points of our quality education, and my students regularly win global prizes. With the latest, just a couple of months back, they won the latest James Dyson Award in the UK. And then previously I also helped SDJ's robotics team with Madam Wong to win the World Robot Olympiad in 2016. So I guess all those are proof of quality education, and just admire that quality education does not mean 100%.
Thank you for your answer, Professor.
Scores and
It's
exams
really
and
an eye-opening answer.
that's a bit
I will
more.
continue with the next question. Traditionally, people tend to believe that there are more males than female in engineering courses. Is this belief true? Are they biased towards a particular?
So I guess this question will be an engineering. Simple is that the engineering field is definitely skewed towards the male population. Okay, then and this is something that I'm passionately about to change, or in the process of changing this. So just to share a bit of statistics over here is that officially in Malaysia, there's about 26% of female graduate engineers among all engineers, and among these numbers, only 6% of this group are actually professional engineers. So this does not really reflect the composition of our population, which is around 51% female, 49% male. So in fact, just to add on a second information is that a survey done showed that from standard 5 to form 2, or around 11 to 14 years old, 46% of girls would still consider a career in engineering as compared to 70% of boys at the same age. Then when they reach Form 4 to Form 5, only 25% of girls would even consider engineering as compared to 52% of the boys who are still interested. And guess what, when you reach university, pre-university level like now you are, this drops further where only 22% of girls actually doing physics, which is a prerequisite in engineering. And I bet you see this phenomena in STJ too. Okay, so but what females do not know is that at university level, 80% of girls do really well in university. In fact, they do gain first class honors and second upper, as compared to only 75% of boys are doing well. So the myth of girls being unsuitable for engineering is really not grounded in truth. So I'm trying my best to bring in more girls into engineering by working with younger girls on robotics and coding, organizing women in STEM seminars, giving them internship, encouraging leadership positions for female in engineering societies at my university. But key points are there's only that much I can do alone, and I hope that the gender imbalance in engineering can be improved in the near future. So there is this problem of imbalance, and hopefully engineers and everybody else could do their part to uh, correct this imbalance. Yeah.
Glad to your answer, Professor. I think I may change my future career to be engineer. Okay, the next question will be asked from Pravina.
Thank you, Tasha. So, hello, Professor. Very pleased to meet
Hi,
you
Pravina.
today. So, my questions would be, you have years of experience in teaching, and by now I'm sure you would have noted the habits of successful students. So, what do you think are the characteristics of successful students in?
Right. So okay, so I've taught for 9 years at the University of Southampton, Malaysia, and one cycle in the UK campus. So in the 10 cycles of teaching, I do notice some key traits for students who are successful, irrespective of the courses actually, okay? So this is just successful traits. And they are number one, grit, Grit, okay, grit. Very, recently made very famous by this professor called Angela Duckworth, right? So grit basically refers to people who have the passion and also endurance for long-term and meaningful goal. So they can take a lot of pain before they reach their goal, and that's very important. Second is actually confidence. Okay, so this refers back to one of the first questions earlier on. What happens when a student face difficulty? So confidence in long term is very important, so that students who are confident in the long term will not allow short-term failures to stop them. So they would take failures as an opportunity, and then they will just trudge on, move forward, because they know deep down that they could succeed in the long term. And third, which is also important, is the go-getter attitude. So a go-getter would never say no to any opportunity, especially when I give it to them. They would never say no. They always say no. Yes, please give me more. So these will be the three key traits that I think will be successful for students. Then there's another thing I want to touch on is such students usually also have something what we call the high AQ. I want to introduce AQ to students who have not know this before yet. So AQ is adversity quotient, right? So most of you would have known IQ and EQ. IQ is intelligence quotient, those are logic puzzle thing, and then EQ is your emotional quotient, okay, how you act socially and so on. But AQ, or adversity quotient, is probably the most important of them all, because it measures the ability of a person to deal with adversity or difficulty in life, right? So so those are the characteristics of students that I think would be successful, not only in my course but also overall in life.
Thank you for your answer, Professor. I'm sure that students like myself would find that very helpful for them. So my next question would be, engineering courses are not exactly easy to take up. As a professor, you are forced to teach students difficult concepts or topics, difficult subjects.
Right. So I like the way you asked the question. forced to teach difficult concepts. Yeah, so stuff. Okay, so the thing is that this might be more relevant to engineering or science, but I use physical models when I need more help. Okay, so here I have one physical model which I always have it on my desk. So here's a physical model that I use when I want to teach, say things like engines over here. And if you can see my whole room, there's a lot of prototypes lying around, but I'm not moving my chair now. So I do get additional help from models like this. And sometimes I go all the more extreme. So there's one example where I try to teach humidity, okay, which is moisture in air. So for this, I actually built a weather station and then connected it to the global weather station network. Yeah. So in fact, if the weather station or the weather prediction that you get in Iskandar Putri area, so if anybody stays near Bukit Indah or Gelang Patah, then the weather prediction that you get is actually from my own weather station, because that will be the nearest possible weather station. So yes, if you live there, then you can thank me for spending 300 ringgit a year to get into the network, and probably 1,000 ringgit for the initial setup. Yeah, but generally, I did this, or rather, I set up the weather station to teach the difficult chapter of humidity. And what I need was, I needed weather data on campus, because I don't think that a weather station in Kuala Lumpur or somewhere in JB, which I believe to be in Lakin, would actually reflect the weather condition at the university. So so usually in those sessions, I ask students to connect their phone to the weather station, and then they can see for themselves what is the humidity level, and then we calculate everything. So students do find those quite interesting. Then I would say that to teach a difficult concept, if you're being forced to do it, then you do it the hard way by setting up all the hardwares and everything. Yep. All right.
Oh, thank you, Professor. That was very interesting and very insightful. So my next question will be, and from what I can understand, Professor, that your job demands a lot of time and dedication to your students. And as a family man, you are also required to spend time with your family as well. So how do you balance your work and your family time?
Right. Okay, good question, especially nowadays. So just want to put a straightforward point that there's nothing more important than family for sure. Okay, so no amount of work is worth doing at the expense of your family. Okay, but as an engineer, on the other hand, I see work-life balance like an equation. So engineers see everything as an equation. Okay, so the things that think about it, all of us has 24 hours in a day. So if we cannot add to the number of hours to make it like 48 hours in a day, then what we can do is that we can improve the efficiency. See, now I'm speaking like an engineer. It's always about efficiency. So to improve efficiency, we can do three things, or rather, I do three things when I try to improve efficiency or try to hack so that I have seemingly more than 24 hours in a day. Number one is that I try to buy the best equipment for work. So if I need to save a bit of time, I'll get the best possible computer, best possible this and that. Of course, this option might not be the best advice for students, right? When you start to work and you get your own money, that maybe that's more feasible. But I always only work with the best equipment. And second is that I learned computing skills to automate many of my more. Basically, I code the marking process beforehand, so that when students submit, and I have to mark close to 100 to 200 assignments in a week or so. So it's just impossible for me to mark everything and give feedback. So when I managed to code everything down for the marking process, then those hundreds of students, they could get instant feedback the moment they submit their assignment. So that's how I cheat time also, by using all the skills to automate a lot of my tasks. When I open my computer nowadays, it does 101 things before I do anything. So I switch on my computer, make a cup of tea. When I'm back, virtually things that I would have done manually for 2 hours are all conducted already. Okay. Then third bit is that I try to block out all distraction at work. My internet browser is calibrated to block Facebook, YouTube, and other distraction. So I can't access to a lot of site on my own computer, and this is self-inflicted, because things like Facebook, YouTube, once you're inside, is 2 hours of your time, 3 hours of your time. So the students. Then additionally, this is not for improving efficiency. Is that I keep a very detailed timetable at half-hour increments. So I live a very regimented life, so that I know exactly what I need to do every day, and I have 1,001 reminders. So anybody who knows me, physically or personally, they know that my phone is always buzzing me to go on to the next appointment and so on. Yeah, so that's how I organize and plan for work-life balance, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Professor. That was very
Thank you.
helpful for us to understand your lifestyle. Now, Edmund will continue asking the questions.
Yes,
That's a
thank
very
you,
boring
Pravina.
lifestyle, right? Yeah. Okay.
But it's organized, so I think students could use that aspect of it because, especially in the current time, like we're all at home, the distractions are like tenfold. There's so many things that bothers us and distracts us from our studies. So yeah, maybe a scheduled out, organized lifestyle is what we need at this time. I don't think it's what we want, but maybe it's what we need. And
Yeah,
speaking
that's
of
actually true.
yeah, speaking of the education, like due to the current situation of the country and the world, the pandemic that's ongoing, everything has gone like virtual instead of physical. So, what do you envision for the future of the education system?
Right. So okay, so this is what I envision, right? What I envision. So in an ideal world of what I envision, then I would think that coding should be the new language where everybody should master in the primary and secondary languages that we do, and then also that soft skills should be emphasized at a much earlier age, in addition to the present emphasis of 3M. Okay, so membaca, menulis, and mengira, or reading, writing, and counting. So if we could put in coding a lot earlier, soft skills a lot earlier to balance things out, then I believe our graduates or our students will be a bit more well-rounded. Then I would also personally like to see some things made mandatory in the near term. In the near term, meaning maybe 3 to 5 years. So one day, if say the Minister of Education comes to me, and I would say the exact same words. Okay, so I would say dear Minister, please include maybe 3 things over here. Number one is please add in financial literacy for kids or for teenagers. That would be very useful. Second is that maybe introduce exercises to improve AQ of students rather than just IQ and EQ. So the adversity quotient has to be a bit more prominent so that students can face adversity. All right. Then last one I would want also is that teach students way to have digital detoxing. Okay, because all of us, including old people like myself now. Okay, so we are becoming digital natives. So the last time I checked how frequent I look at my phone, I always think that I would spend close to 45 minutes on my phone per day. That's what I think. But when my phone returned the report to me, it's 2 hours 15 minutes on average per day. Okay, so yeah, so my quantified time clearly is only 45 minutes, but where did that 1 hour 15 minutes go to? So as much as I think I'm very disciplined and regimented in avoiding screen time and everything, but I'm clearly way too into screens and so on. So learning how to digitally detox is very useful. Okay, so in the education future that I see every night, when I close my eyes, then I'm seeing a world where hopefully students and teachers are collaborators in teaching and learning. So I'm trying to make it a reality by pushing it through my creative and playful learning method, of which I have an escape room where students and teachers co-develop. So hopefully in the near futures, all these things can come together. Right. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor. I personally agree with that. I feel that coding should be implemented a bit more, and I think technology should be integrated into our education a bit more as well. Okay, so for my next question, it also relates to everything that's going on now, where as things go online, everyone has to adapt. Students, teachers, parents alike. So
Yeah.
the traditional methods of teaching might have to evolve as well. So what do you think that you can personally improve in order to benefit your students and maybe even their parents in your teaching profession?
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction that I have with the teaching profession or my own practice of the profession. So there's probably 1001 things that I would like to change. But of course, that would be cheating because you didn't ask for 1001 things. So to be honest, to be put on the spot now, this is actually quite difficult to answer. But if there's a couple of things or one thing that I would like to improve in my teaching, especially nowadays, where for this year actually I started off by not knowing my students. In fact, when I say not knowing my students means, for this academic year, when I kick off the year, then we entered into online mode straight away. And I believe this is reflected for students who enter lower six. They barely know their teachers at all, or at least only through online. And I'm questioning what is the possibility of knowing somebody very deeply through online methods. Yeah. So if there's one thing that I would like to improve almost immediately would be to try to know my students even more. And the more you know them on the students at a deeper level, the more they will trust you. Okay, so my tactics in teaching has always been to build trust instead of working on the syllabus. Yeah. So, but if there's one thing which is not related to myself, which I want to improve for the entire teaching profession, and this might sound very controversial, and I'm very mindful that I'm speaking in possibly the audience of half teachers and half students. If I'm given a chance to be an education minister, and you better don't give me that chance, So yeah, so I would actually try out something called skills-based classroom, and not age-based classroom. So currently, students are grouped by age. All 17-year-old be together, all 15-year-old be together. But different students will differ in maturity and skills for different domains and subjects. Some students are better at language at a younger age. Some are better at mathematics at a younger age, and so on. Some are they would flourish in music, but eventually, given enough time, everybody would catch up. So I want to imagine a world where everybody is good at everything, because just with enough time, enough nurturing, enough chances, then students should be allowed to bloom at their own age or at their own pace. So if for me, then it'll be skills-based classroom, and age-based classroom or age-based streaming just does not allow people to be good at everything. People have to choose. Okay, who is to say that engineers can't do music or musicians can't do coding? All right. Yeah. So that's my one big idea to improve the teaching profession. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Okay, so that's all the questions I have personally, but there are a few questions coming in from the live chat. So I'll begin with a few of those. Okay, so Roshan Palaniappan wants to know, is it stressful to be a professor?
Is it stressful to be a professor? Honestly, no, it's not stressful to be a professor, because it depends really. Okay, so I love to do discovery. I love to do new things. I love to work with the industry. So those things spur me on. Once I enter the lab, almost nobody could find me anymore, because I just go into my own world. Then I love improving my lecture slides, lecture presentation, everything. Before every lecture, I tend to practice 2 rounds. So for every lecture that I perform, I probably do 2 hours. For every hour that I teach, I probably practice 2 hours just to get the timing right and everything. And that is why I always call my lectures as a performance. Yeah, so I perform, with the students together, and hopefully they reciprocate. So all these things are actually very interesting to me, and there's a lot of fun things to do. So I can do fun projects like doing Minecraft. So I'm a global Minecraft mentor for Microsoft. Then I don't know. I'm always surrounded with toys and everything that I need. So if you could see what's behind me, then you could see a lot of interest engineering toys and so on. So okay, not very interesting, but okay, I probably don't take it. But anyway, I'm always surrounded with interesting things, so I can't imagine that it'll be stressful at all. Yeah. Okay. Of course, for deadlines, then it's quite stressful. Yeah. Okay. So hope I answered that question.
Yes. Chai Ming Jing wants to know, how has learning English affected a student's success or multiple students' success?
Okay, so this is a very, very important question. Okay, so if words are the building blocks of languages, then languages, including English or any language for that matter, will be the building blocks for knowledge. Okay, so I cannot emphasize enough on the importance of language, both in spoken and also written form. I can basically pivot or pinpoint my achievement in my student life and career to simply my strength in BM and also English. That's really the building blocks. So all the logical thinking skill, the numerical skills and everything, they can step aside if you don't have any language skills. So I personally was blessed by living in an English speaking home, but then I do learn BM the hard way by reading newspaper every day as a high school student. And when I went Germany at age 7, I went there without a word of German at all. So I went there for a full year, and yeah, but I basically spoke basic German in 3 weeks because I spent 4 hours a day focusing just to improve the language. Then I tell myself, I need to gain 10 to 100 words per day and everything, and I immerse myself in the language. So language is really important. The study of language have not evolved, I would say. Okay, in the grand sense of things that to learn a language is very simple. Immerse yourself, speak the language, make the mistakes, then you're fine. All right. So yep. So that's really really all. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
So I hope
thank
I
you.
answered that question.
Yes, I agree that,
Thank you.
with English being the lingua franca, most
Mhm.
probably
Mhm.
with that skill, I think it'll benefit a lot of people, especially with international communication and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next there's a question from Khadija Fatiha. What
Mhm.
advice would you give your students for them to follow in your footsteps?
Right. So yeah. So I say please don't follow in my footsteps. Okay. So you should really walk your own steps. And write the story of your
Yes.
life. But I suppose what Khatijah meant by following my footstep could probably be interpreted as having good results as a student, and then
Mm.
having a decent career thereafter. Okay. So if I put it into this scope, then okay. So many people do not know that I was a two-time university dropout. Okay, so hey, two times university dropout. But of course, those were for financial reasons, right? Rather than academic reasons. I'm pretty good academically. Yeah. So at both times, I could have ended my dreams of being a hybrid teacher, engineer, scientist, chimera or whatever. Okay. So I actually set out close to 4 years, and seeing, I mean, sitting out for nearly 4 years and seeing all my peers progress ahead of me at that point was very difficult. Just imagine at 22, all your peers already progressed to 26-year-old kind of success and everything. So those were really difficult times for me. But instead, what I did was I stuck to my goals, and I tried to improve myself even when I had to drop out at those times. So I studied engineering on my own while I had to quit university in those years. So I studied the syllabus, I buy textbooks and everything. Then so I would say that if you want to follow into my footsteps, then I would really say stick to your goals no matter how difficult it is. Okay, because goals without actions are just dreams, and dreams end when you wake up from your sleep. All right. So regardless, just wake up and fight for your goals to achieve your dreams. Okay, so dreams are definitely achievable as long as you don't give up. Okay, so nobody can say that you fail unless you yourself say that you have failed in the process. Yeah, so sometimes it might take you a bit longer steps. Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. So someone, Crystal has asked. Okay, it's a statement. Innovation is important, but there are many challenges such as internet, infrastructure, cost, and self-motivation. The question
Mhm.
is, what can students do about it?
What can students do about it? Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say the best actually is to find a mentor, because if you can find a mentor as a student, all these problems can easily be resolved, because a resourceful mentor usually would know how to find the money for you, and a resourceful mentor would usually know the ways or the experience to actually encourage you, you know ask the right question, or impose the right expectation upon you, and then from there on, you know, you would be motivated, and you know, you would, you know, really be what you call, you know, driven towards the smaller pathway of innovation and gain success from there. So I would say, you know, simply put, you know, without a long answer, find a mentor. That's always the best way.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that advice. And
Thank you.
now there's actually a few more questions. Sinyi has asked, what are the future jobs for the youths and how can they prepare for it?
Okay, so future jobs for the youth. Okay, I think this global pandemic has shown a lot of things. Okay, so you know, we are expecting what we call a K-shaped recovery. So you know, in your head now, think of a K shape, right? The letter K. So what happens is that, you know, if you think of the letter K, on the left side, there's one line, there's a straight vertical line. All right, that represents how the global economy look like. It's a sudden drop. It's a, you know, vertical drop.
Yeah.
After it drops already, it has to recover. Everything always recover after it drops. Yeah. But what happens at this point is that, you know, that's the scary part of things. It's a K shape. K shape means that half the people would go upwards, half the people would go downwards. Okay, so that's what we call by a K shape recovery. And the K shape tells us exactly where the divide feels like. Okay, so usually what it means is that you know, professionals or, you know, professions which has a professional body tend to be in the blessed upper part of the K shape, and then those which are, you know, more menial skills, those would be at the bottom end of the K shape. So I would say that, you know, as long as you stick to, you know, professional skills and so on, or at least develop professional skills for whatever job that you're doing, that would be very useful. So in the immediate term, and immediate term we mean by 3 to 5 years, I would think data scientists or anything to do with you know, computing or computer science or, you know, data processing and everything, those would be the hot jobs in the immediate term. So if anything, regardless of your, you know, vocation and so on, I would say learn coding, because you know, there can be a lot of benefits that come from it. In fact, I even taught some of my colleagues who are not, you know, academics over here, who are not lecturers. So I taught them some basic coding in Excel, and then, you know, they could do their work instead of you know, 3 hours in a day just, you know, sorting data out. Now they need to click one button and it's done in 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes because they went for a break and come back. You know, if they click, then it's just 1 minute. All right. Yeah. So yeah. So that's my, you know, answer for that.
Okay. So I'll just move on to the next question because we are actually taking a lot of time.
Okay.
Okay, I can't pronounce this person's name, but she wants to know what are your current interests.
What my current interest? Okay, so my current interest is on renewable energy. In fact, this has been my interest for some time. So my most current interest is on renewable energy for the aviation industry, in particular be biojet fuels. In fact, as of now, since the past year, I've been writing a book on biojet fuels, and it will have a global release very soon. So in June 2021, you know, all universities around the world would receive. Okay, if they had to buy it first, okay. But you know, once they buy it, then they would actually receive my textbook in global aviation, and that would have a very renewable energy kind of you know, feel to the whole book. So really, I'm working on everything renewable energy at the moment. At the same time, also pushing for you know, education theory. So education and renewable energy, those are the, you know, my key focus at the moment. Yeah.
The next one is Intan Natasha. She wants to know what are the issues that students usually face when they approach you. So I guess what problems do they bring up to you? I think that's what you mean.
Okay, so you know, maybe just okay. So I'll draw the line between 2018 after and before. Okay, so
Okay.
before 2018, when student approach me, typically it'll be more, you know, I do not understand thermodynamics. You know, I'm not clear about what you're mentioning over there. You know, then, you know, can you guide me on career choices and everything? Yeah, so those were the common questions when students find me before 2018. But you know, after 2018, I do think that, you know, there's a, you know, step change. Step change means there's a sudden change. Okay, there's a step change on what students think of problems as problems. So after 2018, you do see that students are more, that means they get in touch with their emotional aspect more. So they would share with you, things like I'm struggling with my studies now. Overall, I'm having difficulty, mentally and everything. So I do find that things have shifted from the very academic perspective to very pastoral care. So pastoral care will be very what you call emotional based kind. So nowadays when I speak to my students, I have to be way more careful and way more mindful that maybe there's a bit of fragility in students and or the relationship that we have with students. So yeah, so I think those are the things that students find me for. Yeah.
So Yosemin wants to know what jobs in the STEM field do you think will be eliminated in the near future?
Okay, STEM field will be eliminated. So I'm definitely not an authority in this, but what I can probably share is that if we look at the World Economic Forum and the World Economic Forum or WEF, they usually they meet once a year and post out all the hot jobs for the future and jobs which will be displaced in the future. And unfortunately or fortunately for that is that there isn't many STEM jobs inside. In fact, I couldn't find any STEM job within the top 10 that will be displaced in the future. Whereas on the other hand, I don't agree with the list, but top in the list are, law and also accountancy. Okay, so law and accountancy are so entrenched in my working life now. I just cannot imagine lawyers and accountants being displaced. Okay, maybe they don't need it in such large quantities because of automation in law and automation in accountancy. But I just cannot imagine that those can be displaced. But if you're talking about STEM, then I think STEM is pretty safe. Okay, I don't personally foresee anything. Yeah,
Okay,
so
but
maybe STEM jobs. Yeah.
yeah, but you said
Sorry,
you
come
don't
again?
agree. Yeah, you don't agree with the list. So what's your personal answer?
Oh, so I agree with the part that there's no STEM jobs that's being affected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't agree with the list that lawyers and what they call it, accountants are being
All right.
affected
Okay.
because
I understand.
in the first industrial revolution,